Dear viewers, thank you for joining us. You're watching OBN Horn of Africa. This is Future Africa Spotlight. Today, I brought you Professor Hussein Warsame from Canada, University of Calgary. He is expert in the area of public policy. And I will let him to introduce himself for us in brief. And it's better to hear from the horse's mouth.
Thank you for inviting me. I am extremely happy to join you. Yes, I am Hussein Warsame. I'm originally from Somalia. I am now a professor of taxation, accounting, and public policy in general. Basically, it is some kind of economics background. I am also in the National Economic Council of Somalia, and also the board of directors of the Central Bank of Somalia. But I won't be speaking on their behalf. Basically, I'm speaking on my behalf as a professor.
Our discussion going to revolve around the ongoing situation in Ethiopia. And it's going to be a matter of discussion today. As we all know, the Western media propaganda is really embarrassing. The global media are fabricating false propaganda out of the ongoing conflict between the federal government and that of the Tigrayan forces. Again, the US intervention is another tragedy. On one hand, US is insisting the Ethiopian government to resolve the ongoing conflict that is being undergone on the northern part of Ethiopia, in the northern part of Ethiopia. On the other hand, the US is meditating to deploy its troops, and it's again another paradox. We haven't seen any resolved conflict in the presence of US in any nation so far. We're going to have a deep and profound discussion on these matters. What is your overall analysis on the ongoing situation in Ethiopia ever since day one of the war up until these days?
Well, first of all, thank you, Adisu, for inviting me again. And I also thank you for the introduction. I'm not aware of what the foreign, or let us say the Western media are doing, but I am aware of what is happening in Ethiopia now, and also what I think probably is happening and how it agonizes us in general, those of us who are Africans, who are in the United States, in the North America, or in Somalia, or in the Horn of Africa in general. We are really sad about what is happening there, and we are organized about it, about the situation. The main reason why I am saying that is, I see Ethiopia as the future economic engine of the Horn of Africa, whether it is Somalia, Sudan, Djibouti, even Kenya. Ethiopia is going to be the economic engine. Reason being, number one, it has 110, at least more than 110 million people in population, but also the economy of Ethiopia was improving fastly for the last many years. I was reading about it, and in 1990, the GDP of Ethiopia was about 13 billion. Now, it is at least 107 billion, and that is before you convert it to what we call purchasing power, what the money can buy. If we do that, could be equivalent to about 300 billion. No other country in the East Africa or around there is even close to that. I think Kenya is close. Kenya was also doing extremely well, about 98% now, billion now, is doing very well. But Ethiopia was developing at 10%. I have a little story for you. About 5 years ago, one of the, I would say, best economists that is studied Africa, a British guy, came to my university, University of Calgary, especially the School of Public Policy. We have a conference on oil and gas. And we hands shook each other, and I asked him, which country in Africa do you think will have the best economic prospects in the future? He didn't hesitate. He said Ethiopia right away. He said the way it is going. So because of those reasons, and because of the program of democratization that Abiy has started in 2018, we were very, very hopeful of Ethiopia. We thought that it is going to be the future engine, economic engine of Somalia. And that's why we are extremely sad of what is happening right now.
Why the US involvement is needed while Ethiopia is capable of resolving its own problem by its own political decision?
Excellent. Yes, the economy is developing very, very well, but there is a fighting going on. And I'm not sure what the position of the US is. My thinking is that the US administration of foreign policy nowadays is actually confusing. Ethiopia is seen in the West as a friend. That's how it is seen in general. Here in Canada, Ethiopia is seen still as a friend, but a friend who is going through difficult times. Its economy will not continue to be as strong as it was if the fighting goes on. And that is, I think, why people are saying that the fighting should stop. Dialogue should be given time. And by the way, I am not surprised that this thing is happening now in Ethiopia. The reason being, I studied democracy and taxation in general. And also with that also in stability. And what we know is those theorists, what we call democratization theorists, basically say a country is most unstable when it is moving from political, from what we call political positions, like ideological positions. When people usually have those kind of positions where they don't want to move from, but they are actually moving from there. And however, yet we haven't reached a stage where there is a complete norms of participation. During that time, when you are that transition, when you are moving from one stage to another, and that's what the democratization process is all about, usually the country becomes unstable. Instability happens. And how you solve that basically is through a dialogue among the groups, among the Ethiopians, among the citizens of that country. Basically, other people interfering, whether it's the US, whether it is other countries, whether it is the UK, whether it is the EU, interfering in this only complicates the situation. But the government of Ethiopia is the leader of the country, and it should also try to push all the groups together, and the people, other people should be willing to do this. At these two, I have, there is a little other economic term that we use that basically is applicable to this situation, especially where the opposition and the government are. This is what we call sunk cost fallacy. Sunk cost fallacy is the tendency of the human beings to basically stick to their positions, even if their position right now would not lead to success. So basically they say, I spent a lot of effort on this. I spent a lot of time on this. Therefore, I am going to see it through. But in fact, when the right decision is to step back and say, what does the other group want? If we talk, can we look into the future and can we resolve this rather than fighting it out? So for example, what I know about the history of Ethiopia, what I know is that Ethiopia was for a long time a monarch. It was not a just society. It was not. Then it was replaced by a dictatorship. Again, it was not a just society. Then in 1991, even the dictator was overthrown. Unfortunately, the stronger parties of the parties that were fighting the Dergi took power, and they tried to build an ethnic federalism. Now we are moving into democracy, some kind of a participation by everybody on equal terms. That causes a lot of course, instability. And that's what is happening. So what the people should be doing is they say, let me abandon my original philosophy, whether I was pro-monarchy or whether I was pro-dictatorship or a strong man, I should abandon that and see probably from the other side. So Ethiopia is moving to a different position than it ever was, but there will be instability. People should be patient, and I think they should be listening to each other, solving their own problems. They should not expect other countries, whether it is US or other countries, to solve that. And we, Somalis or East Africans, are looking up to you, Ethiopia, to lead this, to solve this, and to become the economic engine of East Africa, Horn of Africa, not Africa, by the way, Horn of Africa. There are other countries like Nigeria who will say we are the engine of the rest of Africa, but East Africa, Ethiopia is the engine. So that is where basically what is needed is dialogue.
Okay.
Everybody stepping back.
Appreciate it. The intensity of the ongoing situation in perspective of Westerners' camera is totally booming and hyperbolically expressed. But as you have said, this instability of part of the ongoing democratization process, why they failed to compromise all this, because it's not a new trend. We can get back to those histories. We can mention French Revolution. We can mention American Civil War. Even America, the very giant and an advocate of democracy these days, was in civil war on those days. And the Germany unification. And we can mention what Mao did in China to bring a better China that we are seeing today. But still the US and other Westerners are denouncing the Ethiopian government's way of bringing democracy in Ethiopia. Why all this maze? Why all these ironies between the Western and between that of Ethiopia is going and perceived wrongly?
Let me put it this way. You are absolutely right. Many, many countries have gone through this. United States has gone through this. Canada, we Canadians have gone through this. And always, it is painful. It's always painful. Always know that every country, whether it's the United States or another country, is basically after their own interest. They think that if the fighting starts, then probably they would lose their interest, is how they see it. What I would suggest to the Ethiopian people and to the Ethiopian government is to talk to them. Talk to the Americans. They have different opinions. Some of them, for example, actually don't believe what the foreign affairs are saying. So talk to them, talk to the media. I saw that one of your actually, I think it was the speaker of the prime minister, what's her name, did an excellent job on CNN. Push back, talk to them, make them understand. At the end of that interview, the CNN people were different. They could see, they were informed. So information is required. Second, wherever people die, and it is your people who are dying on both sides. Ethiopians are dying on both sides. When Ethiopians are dying, it is the responsibility of the Ethiopians, including the TPLF, including others, including the government. Everybody should be making sure that there are no more deaths. People should talk. Just look at what happened to Somalia. It doesn't matter how the fighting starts. Once those things start, they ultimately become civil war. And if civil war comes, nobody wins. And Somalia was one thing. A 15 million country at the sea was one thing. A 100 million population landlocked is a different thing. So basically the loss will be just as large. So therefore, forget about foreign intervention. They have their own interests. They are misinformed in many ways about things. Talk to each other. Ethiopians should talk to each other. And also talk to the world as well. Tell them the truth. Just like you were telling right now. Just like that lady, the speaker, has said on CNN. Talk to them.
The big elephant in the room is TPLF. TPLF, obviously. But
Yep.
The very funny part is trying to get back to the central government and hold power, and these days as well. And as you have heard and seen, the public demonstration in Ethiopia was really worth mentioning, and it's going to be tough for TPLF to think and come to the central power. In this, amid all this trouble, they're still preaching about equality, as if this government is violating human rights and stuff like that. Specifically speaking, TPLF during its reign has brutally murdered about 600,000 ethnic Somalians. During its reign, it has been assigning a puppet administration. We can mention General Quarter. They used to smuggle resources. Literally speaking, Somalia and Somali region were their contraband hub. They have been smuggling all the resources. They have been monopolizing all the resources by one single minor ethnic group. Still, they're claiming to capture the capital city and hold power to run the next some years in the future as well. Does that possible, and will they get acceptance from the Somali people? Do you think that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it is my belief, and it is based on a lot of experience, that no one ethnic group or no group in Ethiopia can defeat the government on its own. That is not a possibility. It is also not desirable at all, because it will be a continuation of what used to happen in Ethiopia. There was always a violent change in Ethiopia. The king was overthrown, and then the Dergi was overthrown by others by violence. If the TPLF now tries to come back to power with violence, and if they succeed, that will be rewarding violence again. And that will not be so. The Ethiopian people, I don't think will go for that, because it will be rewarding violence. But another thing, let me go back to you mentioned Somalia and what they did and all that. As I started with, people should not dwell on sunk costs. That is still in the one we call the sunk cost fallacy, in the sense that if really Somalis think about what Ethiopians, whether they were the TPLF or the governments before then, the emperors and all those things, if they go back and think about those things, they would not even want to talk to an Ethiopian like we are talking right now. They would not even want to talk to them because too many bad things have happened. But what is appropriate and what the Sanki Kostifales is telling us is those things that happened in the past should be learned from, people should learn from that, but they should not dictate your future. Ethiopia is becoming a democracy. It is changing in every way. That should be given a chance. And also, one thing should be known. Kings cannot come back to Ethiopia. So anybody who is thinking in those kind of is basically doing part of that fallacy thing I was talking about. Dictatorship and one group that overpower the other group won't come back. That is an impossibility. We have to find a way to participate and dialogue and have a dialogue. And TPLF should come, of course, to the discussion table, and the Ethiopian government should be willing to bring them to the discussion table. We should be talking about not all the destruction that took place, all the dictatorship that took place, but basically what Ethiopia needs in the future, so that those things that happened in the past should not happen. For example, the kings that used to, the monarchs that used to rule Ethiopia, they have committed huge crimes. The TPLF has committed huge crimes, both in Somalia and in the rest of, and in the Somali region of Ethiopia and in the rest of Ethiopia as well. These things happen right now. A lot of fighting is happening. People are dying on both sides. Ethiopians are dying. To the person who died, or to the person whose brother or mother or was killed, to them, that is a human rights violation, something that they cannot recover from. Therefore, war should be stopped. War has no place in solving the situation. However, it has happened. Let's now look to the future. And the Ethiopian Prime Minister, I believe, frankly, the way that he thinks, he's the only guy who can lead Ethiopia at this transition stage. Because he understands through his training, he's a PhD in those things. He's a co-PhD man. We are both PhDs. He is also a strategist. He understands where things are going. He's also aware of how he came to power. It was basically the instigation of the students who started to fight back, those kind of things. So basically, he should continue with his program of liberalization. And the rest of Ethiopia, I believe, if the Prime Minister starts that and leads this, and he thinks he can lead it, he has the ability, he has the training, he has the charisma to do this, Ethiopia will follow him.
Good job. You spoke out on good qualities of the Prime Minister, and almost all Ethiopians are giving him a round of applause for his good move. But the Westerners are still denouncing his move. Why such contradiction happened between the larger public of Ethiopia and the Ethiopian diaspora who favors Abiy's administration, and those who denounce, downgrade Abiy's administration? Why this contradiction happened?
I will say two things. Very good question, by the way, very good question. I think two things have happened. Nowadays, the way information is propagated is different from what it used to be. It is the social media, basically, that now does this. it is extremely dangerous media. People can basically create their own news and then spread it easily. And so that's how propaganda is nowadays done. So that is one thing. Another thing also is that Adisu, whenever people die, whether it is for good reason or not, whenever people die, other people who are watching become a little bit nervous. Third, there are people who were on top of the political situation. Something has been taken away from them. It is difficult to reconcile themselves with that. And it is basically what was the sunk cost fallacy that I was talking about, and say, people are saying, I used to be this, I used to be the stronger part, I used to be this, I should continue. No, you cannot do that. Ethiopia has changed. So that also could be viability. The mission of democratization is where the Prime Minister has started, and he should continue on that. He should continue on his dialogue. He should continue on releasing prisoners. He should continue on creating venues and norms for participation. And that is what democracy is all about. So I think in the future of Ethiopia is good. They are going through, you are going through difficult times. I am hoping that cooler heads will prevail, the fighting will stop, and the Prime Minister will continue to lead. And remember, Tigray, Amhara, Somali state, Oromo state, Sidamo, all those other states belong to Ethiopia. And we have to win over them. Win-win situation is what we should be looking for. And once you do that, we will be clapping for you. We will be encouraging you. We will be behind you. And we know that East Africa is back and the economy will boom. That is what we are hoping for.
Economics experts, majorly in the area of public policy, and the new government, the incumbent leadership has introduced the homegrown economy majorly. And how do you see the economic model of the new government in Ethiopia?
I applaud what the government is doing. For the first time, before, of course, the fighting starts, 5,000 kilometers of railway was being built. So far, I think it is about 3,000 was complete. The others will be complete. And if that happens, and if you continue building that kind of thing, of course, the cost of moving products will be low. And not only that, another road is joining Berbera to Ethiopia. Others will probably join Hobyo of Somalia to Ethiopia. Bosaso was already, to some extent, linked, but the roads will be built. Telecommunication was being actually liberalized. That has never happened before. It is the government of Abiy who started that. And he invited, in fact, people who are the diaspora to take part of that. That would increase efficiency as well. Banking should be next. Right now, it is still, of course, controlled by the government, but they were also thinking of liberalizing that. And if that happens, that will also increase economic activity and all those things. Borders with Somalia are now easier. $300 million of trade goes through those places now. That plus, when you add also parts of Sudan, we are talking about $300 million per year. Most of it, of course, is unofficial in the sense that it's not taxed by the Ethiopian government. But all those things, liberalization, bringing some kind of a confidence between the government of Ethiopia and the neighboring countries like Somalia, like Djibouti, like Sudan, those kind of things, all that improves the economy. all those things with the economy. And once we start building the roads that will go all the way to Berbera, all the way to Hobyo, all the way to Bosaso, all the way to Mogadishu, to Kismayo, those kind of things start, there will be huge dividends, huge dividends. Even if nothing else, even if Sudan part didn't work, but the Djibouti part is already functioning. And that's why Djibouti now is almost a middle level income level, at the middle income level. They are already almost there. And that has happened for the last 10 years when the railroad and those things has started. Same thing could happen with Somalia as well. Same thing could happen with Ethiopia. I was reading about the Chinese investment in Ethiopia, and the fact that now they are in fact employing 6,000 Ethiopians in the project that they start. And one thing is for sure, right now some people think that there is a tension. What the reason why the Americans are a little bit sensitive is because China has big influence in there. China and the West can coexist in Africa, and they should. Usually, China doesn't care what the form of the government is, as long as there are projects that are being carried on. That's how they do. On the other hand, the West is a little bit more tuned toward democracy. So if you communicate, if a big government communicates with the West, with the European Union, with the Americans, with the Canadians, and show them the democratic process that they are actually doing, those the fear of those people will be allayed. And as far as China is concerned, it will come to Africa. It is coming to Africa. It is already in Tanzania. It is in Kenya. It will come to Somalia. It is in Pakistan, Gwadar port. That Gwadar port and port of Mogadishu will be linked. That will be then linked to Djibouti. Djibouti will be linked to the Suez, and that is how it will go around to Napoli of Italy, and then back to China. That is how the road, the bridge, and it's going to cost them 1.3 trillion. That what we're talking about is $1,300 billion. So Ethiopia is now the prime country that they are investing. Americans can invest, no problem. They can coexist. So Ethiopia should stand in its ground, but it should start having dialogue with its people. That is where it should start. Have dialogue with your own people, and then no foreign country can interfere in your affairs. That's basically my message.
Good job. Okay, you've recommended the government to call for negotiation with that of Tigray forces, but before the war has been started by the Tigrayan forces, the government has been sending mediators, even elderly mothers, celebrities, religious personalities as well. But it is those people who have refused the offer, and they preferred gun and weaponries than a peace negotiation and peace agreements. Is there any possibility at this 11th hour to sit and negotiate on the matter?
Very good point. Excellent question. Let me be blunt, and I hope the Prime Minister listens to this. The Prime Minister is a strategist, and he knows what will work and won't work. He was trained as a military man. He has a PhD in that. He is prepared for this. Yes, the Tigrayans has misbehaved. There is no doubt. The TPLF, not Iranians, I should change that. The TPLF has misbehaved. They should never have held that separate vote with the electionists. They should have never done that. That's basically saying that I don't recognize the constitution, I don't recognize the government. They should never have done that. They should never have started the war. All those things. They should never have come all the way to the Afar region. They should never have come to the Amharic region. They should never have done that. They should never be threatening to take over this, because they can never do that. None of this should be happening, but it happened. And that is still what I am calling the sunk cost. It happened. So now, in order to rehabilitate the country, and it is rehabilitation, what is needed now is rehabilitation. To rehabilitate the country, those groups should also be part of it. But maybe how we should do is, we should talk to other Tigranians who also supported them, their supporters, and basically tell them that this is not going to work. So basically, while he is, the Prime Minister is fighting on one hand, he's also continue on his reform because remember, he started this reform. He was the one who started releasing prisoners. He was the one who brought political parties to the country. He was the one who all this did. So that should continue. The democratic process should continue. We are also hoping the best for the Prime Minister and for the Ethiopian government. Ethiopia should remain intact. It should remain unified, and should then deal with its neighbors in also a respectable manner. And that will mean win-win for everybody, for Ethiopians, for Somalis, for Djiboutians, for Kenyans, and for Sudanese and Eritreans as well.
Okay, Professor Hussein Warsame from Canada, University of Calgary, thank you for your constructive insights on the current matters in Ethiopia. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You are very welcome. These were very intelligent questions. I really appreciated it. Yeah, okay, bye-bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Dear viewers, this brings you the end of our edition for today. Bye-bye. See you next time with another edition.